Hey y'all, welcome to the Ready to Rain podcast. This week, we are ready for Jordan Harbertson. Now, Jordan has been the founder of Mountain Ops and now the founder of Black Flag. We dive into his story and how he became a serial entrepreneur. And if you want to be inspired, stay tuned and get ready to rain.
Love it.
I didn't do headphones. Do you want headphones?
We can if you want. That way, if people are coming in and out, it won't ever pull us out. That's the only reason why I love.
This is such a fun little setup.
Yeah, so this is. I'll give you kind of the tour of what the whole facility is going to be.
You guys are on it. Yeah.
But it's fun. Like, you know, our Mountain Ops headquarters. It's literally. It's funny. So Mountain Ops is literally.
Is it on the other side of the mountain?
It's right there. Like, that's Mountain Ops. So we joke right now that it's as if we're two ships, aimed at each other, and our guns are aimed and we're taking shots.
Yeah.
And but our ship's bigger, and so because headquarters there, the gym was small, retail was small. It was a really fun. Casey and I literally, when we restored the building, we basically, we won some really cool awards. We won architectural awards, renovation and remodeling awards, and it's a really cool historic building, but it's just very small. We got into it in year 3.5 in the business when we were just growing and blowing up, and then it was we tapped out of it in year 5, but we were locked in, and they still decided to stay there. I was like, dude, you guys should get this is what I always wanted. I just wanted a flex warehouse space so I could build a big community space for people to come and enjoy for the brand.
Yeah. And
then obviously some really cool quarters for captains and crew.
And we can switch the cord if it's on your side too.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Oh, if we need to switch it?
If you want to.
No, it should be fine. It's great.
Okay. Move it a little closer to you.
Yes.
Okay.
Talk right into the mic. That's my...
Is it ASMR?
It's, see, sound check. Just check. See, people will be like, dude, these guys are getting after it. They're hearing the music, the gym in the background. They're like, dude, what is going on? Well, and it's kind of like when you were at Hunt Expo too. I guess that room was kind of accommodating, wasn't it? Because it had the carpet. The sound was fairly dampened, right?
It was actually really nice, and I had the perfect time during the day because I did 9 to 10, and the show started at 10 every day.
Oh,
so
nice.
It was quiet, and people were coming in. But I also don't mind it because it just brings authenticity to the podcast. You're going to hear noise, you're going to hear people. That's just life. And so it's kind of fun to listen to a podcast where it's not just dead silent. It doesn't have to be perfect.
No.
So.
No,
yeah.
people, and then if you have ADD like I do, you love ambient noise because it actually helps you focus.
Yeah.
If it's quiet, I was on my Instagram today talking about how the educational system is broken, because I'll show you this. This is the post that I put up, and I saw it today. I was like, dude, I've never in my life seen a post that more perfectly symbolizes the problem with the school system. And it's a picture of,
See, I think I'm getting into a different phase of life where I just had a kid. So now I'm starting to look at schools. I just did the whole daycare thing.
Oh, yeah.
And so before you go into that phase of life, you never really care about the school system or anything like that. But then now I have a kid. My mom calls me every week. She's like, okay, so when you homeschool and when you do this, and I'm like, I'm not there yet. But then I'm like, oh yeah, I need to start understanding what's going on in the schools because he's going to be there within the next couple of years. So
amazing. Okay, so let's see. There we go. Oh, maybe this is... Listen. Okay, so this is what I put up. So it says, the current education system, everybody has to take the same test, please climb that tree. And then it's got, a dog, a fish, it's got an elephant and a monkey. And it's how is everybody supposed to get to the top of the tree?
yeah.
And it's the system isn't built or designed as a universal. It works for everyone. And the system is still operating the same way. And it's very broken. And so I just kind of put up on my story. I was like, listen, I had ADD, I had ADHD. I was interested in subjects I wasn't. And those things that I applied myself and I thrived in, and those things that I just didn't care for, and I failed, or I didn't succeed, or I didn't do well on tests. And so when you averaged out my grade, I was a failing student based on the system, because it's a graded system. And it was like, listen, I felt like I was a monkey. I'd run all over that tree, climbing and hanging from limbs. But then by the system, I was an elephant because I couldn't climb the tree. I couldn't get to the top. So I was like, I've already had a bunch of comments where people are like, well, and I'm like, no, listen, no offense. Like, if the system worked for you, excellent. You thrived in it. My wife thrived in the system. She was a scholar, lettered student. She got her bachelor's degree in less than 2 years of college because she did so much extra credit and so many things. She was so good at it. Me, I took one semester and I quit college. I was like, yeah, this isn't for me. I'm done.
Yeah.
I was out. But, okay, you want to fire this thing up?
Yeah, I want to fire it. And now I'm like, okay, now I want to understand, like, how did you climb the tree?
Yeah, right. How did you get to the top of the tree?
So let's do a little intro. So Jordan, you kind of have a wild background. So let's just start from your story.
From the beginning?
From the beginning.
Oh,
like as
goodness.
a wee lad.
Yes, as a wee lad. I mean, my story begins, many people have heard me on podcasts. I'll kind of ESPN top 10 play this, but I started my first business when I was 8 years old. I just sold basketball, baseball, football cards in a brown paper sack that I rewrapped the cards in and wrote $1 on. And I just went I literally was on the street corner selling against the girls up the street who were selling lemonade. And so I was like, I wanted to differentiate. So I was like, I want to be different, because they look like they're cashing in on all the moms, all the guys driving by, getting lemonade. And I was like, I'm going to do something different. I love basketball cards. It's a big hobby of mine. So I did that, and I started getting all the guys. And all these guys and their sons were coming and buying cards from me. And every day after school, I'd set up my table, and I'd put it up there. And then I learned, hey, wait a minute. What if I added lemonade, right? So then and here I am drinking pink lemonade. And I grabbed lemonade.
I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah, you're good. And as I added that to the table, I noticed that I started to get a couple of their customers. And then my mom's like, hey, why don't you make cookies? And so I made some chocolate chip cookies. And now you could get cards, you could get some pink lemonade, and then you got some cookies. And right there from the age of 8 on, like I was raised by a father who was an entrepreneur. Like I was a third generation Harbertson that was going to be subliminally. My dad was teaching both my brother and I like entrepreneurship, because I watched my dad build his business with his brother. And so from there, I started hustling MP3s. Remember MP3s? I would literally rip MP3s from Napster, Kazaa, and some of my friends didn't even know how to do that. So I just sell them to them at high school. So they had ringtones, or they had different songs that they wanted.
My gosh.
So I was a pirate, right? I was a pirate from the start, because I was pirating all of this music and all these ringtones, and I started, reselling them to my friends. And fast forward into like junior high, I'm 14 years old, and I pick up a camera, and I'm like, dude, I'm really into like capturing moments. This is really fun. And then I'm reviewing them, and then, like a good pirate, I pirated a copy of Adobe Photoshop on Kazaa, which also created viruses, and I destroyed like 20 of my parents' computers. I feel so bad for that. But with that pirated copy of Photoshop, I started teaching myself how to edit photos, and I started to learn like how to like create different layers and adjust and it became an art form. Like photographers for so long were 35 millimeter. Like how you shot it is how it finished. You put it in the dark room, you finish the shot. You can adjust the exposure based on the red light or some of the chemicals that you use to finish it. But with digital, it was like I could take a shot, I could manipulate it, I could change some of the tones, some of the colors of the sky, or some of the green, and you could really make this vibrant or beautiful photo out of like your ability to manipulate it or to recreate it. And so that kind of led me into where I met my mentor when I was 14, and I asked him, I didn't know at the time, but I asked him for an Apple computer because I was working on Windows, and Windows sucks. Even to this day, Windows still sucks. Still in second place. But I heard that Apple was like for creatives, or was really good for editing things. And so I immediately like went to him and just said, hey, Rob, do you have an extra Apple computer? And he owned a marketing firm. And he said, no, I don't. We usually bring those in, we sell them or we resell them, and we bring a new product for our guys. He says, I don't have any computers left over, but I do have a workstation that is open. Would you like to come in and like learn how to design? And I actually like would you like a job? And I was working for my dad in nuts and bolts. My dad owned a fastener company in North Salt Lake with his brother called THB, which stood for the Harbertson Brothers Incorporated. And they were one of the renowned and revered fastener companies, like nuts, bolts, washers, custom fabrications. Like they did it all end to end. And I grew up as a very young man, like every summer working there, like we all did in our family. But I wasn't passionate about nuts and bolts like my dad was. And so I pursued this opportunity. I went with Rob, and he gave me a job at his agency. And so I started out as a graphic designer. I remember when I went and sat down with Rob, I presented my portfolio, and it was just all these pictures that I had manipulated on Photoshop. And I had, photography was all I knew. I didn't know how to do graphic design. He said, listen, why don't you just give me the next, call it 4 years of your life, and I'll teach you what I know. And I was like, game, like let's do it.
14 to 18.
And so 14 years old, I started at a marketing agency as a graphic designer, and I began a mentorship with him that I started working for our clients at the time. We worked for all the Easton family brands. So Easton Archery, Hoyt, we had Browning as an account. We worked with Realtree. Like we had all these outdoor companies that we serviced for and did work for. And I was kind of a little grunt at the time, learning how to do small projects. And so I started working on catalogs for Easton and for their Beeman brand that they had purchased, and all these different outdoor brands that, suddenly like I was learning in real time. And I became obsessed with it. I said to my mom, I was like, I'm going to work here after school. So like I'll come home, but then after school. So like I played with my friends a little bit, but I actually spent more time at the marketing firm and the agency after school in junior high. And immediately in high school, like I actually got a class off at the end of school so I could early out, go work and get credit for having a job. And by the time I was 18 years old, I was actually here at Davis High School. I was teaching the graphic arts and design class at Davis High. And so Mrs. Greenwood, who was actually a family friend of ours, she, when I was in her class, recognized that she's like, you know more than I do. She's like, I'm reading from the manual. You literally are doing things outside of this. How did you learn this? And I was like, oh, I work for a marketing agency, and I've learned how to do photography and graphic design. I've learned marketing. And she's like, well, why don't you teach your peers? And I was like, can I do that? She's like, yeah. She's like, instead of you doing the assignments and instead of you doing the work, you obviously know this way better than, why don't you just teach the class? Why don't you teach your peers? And so every, period for that class, I would teach a subject or teach design, theory of design. And I started to learn how to prepare and do presentations. And I was teaching my classmates in high school, like how to do design.
And how is like that?
It was wild.
Was it hard to be like, these are my peers, but I know more than them and I teach them? Or it was
a trip just because like a bunch of my buddies were in the class too, and they're like, Harbertson, like, why is he teaching the class? After, I remember the first time I taught it, I was teaching Adobe InDesign and how Adobe InDesign works in creating, printed collateral and materials, and how you can do layout and design and the priority of design and first and second degree and all these things that are important when you're doing the theories of design, and how that is appealing to the eye, and how the eye really appreciates design, doesn't know why it does, but when you do design things in beautiful and simple ways, the eyes and mind will digest it much better and consume it in a better way. And so my guy, they were like, you're a nerd. They're like, dude, Harbertson's a nerd. Dude, he's out teaching our class, and like, what the heck? And so it was like at a very young age, I kind of knew from 14 what I wanted to do. I was in love with marketing. I was in love with branding. I was in love with creating things and designing things. Like I loved to build things. I did Legos as a kid. Like I was obsessed with Legos. Did you do Legos?
We did Legos, and my husband's obsessed with Legos.
Yeah, so that's Austin
we
and
haven't gotten to the whole like TikTok thing where you go and buy the boxes yet. It's because we have so many other projects going on. Yeah, you're
like, dude, we don't have time for Legos.
But we watched all like the Lego Masters and all that. Yeah.
Oh, which is a great show.
It's an amazing show.
Incredible what they can do with Legos, right?
Yeah.
And I never, like growing up with Legos, I never, like I'd have the plans. I'd buy the box, let's call it like I'd always buy the product. I'd put it together, and then I'd tear it apart and I'd build something else.
Yeah.
I would always build off plan or off whatever they said after I had completed the first time. And I just loved to build things and design things. I just had an eye for it naturally. It was something that just happened growing up. Part of who I was. I had a big, vibrant imagination. And so kind of fast forwarding to graduation. I graduate, I end up going to New York City for a couple of years, and I served a mission for my church there. And what was really cool about that experience was I was in the mecca of marketing. I mean, you're in Times Square, you're in downtown, you're in New York City, where everywhere there's a billboard, everywhere there's a brand, just clamoring for eyeballs to like look their way, or you're trying to get the attention of millions of people on this little island of Manhattan. And so while I was there serving, like I learned so much about marketing and messaging and real world application from what I had learned from just working at an agency and what I had done there. And so when I came back from my mission, I became like a marketing director. I actually started to direct some of the marketing for some of the brands of Easton. And
so you stayed with that company
they hired me right back.
Okay.
I mean, I was like 2 months before coming home, and he sent me an offer, and he's like, "You have to come back and work for me." He's like, "Jordan, I need you to come back. I've missed you for 2 years." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm in. Let's do it." And so when I came back at 21, a lot had changed in 2 years. When I came back in 21, I left when MySpace was a thing, and MySpace was like everybody's friend was Tom, and we had our theme songs and we had our top 8 friends. That was such the most messed up thing, because it's like in social media, if you're in the top 8, you're like, cool. But if you're not, like that probably ruined your friendship, But so
social media definitely ruins.
Yeah, it can ruin friendships really fast. And Tom, he was onto something. But then Zuckerberg came out, and when I came home from my mission at 21, this is in 2008. And this is right at the emergence of Facebook, Instagram, Twitter are like now on the scene, and it's a new thing. And so I'm learning in real time, growing up in marketing with print, video, advertising on TV and radio and all these different mediums. And there's this new digital commerce that's emerging, and it's coming really fast. And so I started to kind of teach myself in after hours these things, because our marketing firm wasn't really providing those services. So I taught myself how to code websites. I taught myself how to do social media. And I ended up going to my boss at the time, my mentor, and I was like, "Rob, like, we need to add this to the Rolodex of like our services and what we're doing." He said, "Nope, I like what we do. I've been doing this for 50 years, Jordan. I don't want to change our marketing firm and our services of offering." I was like, "Dude, I'll literally go knock doors and I'll get us websites. I'll take over their social media." I'm like, "I'm going to learn this, figure this out." And so that was actually the point in my mentorship with Rob where we kind of went our ways. I knew at that moment, I was like, it's time for me to leave. It's time for me to go and do my own thing. I was really scared though, because in my heart, I always wanted to, but I loved what I was doing with him and who we were doing it with, all of our amazing clients in the outdoor industry and all the amazing things that we did. And that's when in 2008, this is right after the big real estate crash, right, where everything failed. And my brother Casey and I are living together in Farmington, Utah here in a duplex. He's living in the basement and I'm living up top. And we both have our first kids. I have Peyton, he has Brooklyn. And so we're young newlyweds with one kid each. He was Brooklyn and then Kaiden. He had 2 and I had 1.
Okay.
And
just to clarify, Casey's older than you?
Casey's my older brother, yeah.
Okay.
I'd asked that question to a lot of people, and they can't tell now. Sometimes they say I am older sometimes, but if you spend enough time with us, he definitely seems like the more mature kid. Casey's very poised, very well, spoken, and he's very much like from a maturity level, like he's very mature. I mean, we're both mature by nature, but like you get us together and it's yin and yang. Like you got me that's just like this bubbly, like extrovert, and you got Casey who's the introvert, and it's a good combination. It's worked really well for our partnership for all these years, because what I eventually did with Casey was I convinced him to leave my dad's business, which would eventually be his future of taking over my dad's side of the business in the Harbertson family. And I said, "Dude, why don't you just come with me to a new business? Let's start our own marketing agency." And he wrote all these pros and cons of why he should and why he shouldn't. And what was kind of wild was when he got through his pros, there were so many things that says why he shouldn't. Security, a successful company, I get to take it over, blah, blah, blah. And I looked at him, I said, "Yeah, but remember Dad's ask was, in order for you to take over the family business, you have to have a college degree." I was like, "You're not going to college." He's like, "That's true." I was like, "And look at all these cons that you're saying, and risk, there's unsecurity, like low pay, like you're going to go down in income, like all these things." I'm like, "But Casey, we get to control our destiny together." And interesting enough, our very first client, this is a trip. Let me turn this off. Our very first client was Castle Creek Homes. So 2008,
our very first client that we get a big contract with, that we pitched a game that we didn't deserve to pitch, and we had no idea what we were pitching, to be honest with you. We were pitching stuff that we said we could do, that we had no idea if we could do it, but we were like, we're going to figure it out if we can, you know? We just need somebody to give us a shot. So Mike Schultz, who's actually the current speaker of the House here in Utah, owns a company called Cache Creek Homes, which is a home builder here in, you know, the Davis County, Weber area. They ended up doing Utah County, Salt Lake, and 2008, we ended up taking over and being their marketing firm. And so that we started the company, and with their account, we learned really fast that the government takes their portion. And so the contract we thought was awesome wasn't paying us that much, and we weren't making that much money. We were making like less than $1,000 a month. Our wife was like, "What did you just do?" So we had to go out and get more clients, right? So we go hustle to get more clients. But what was really cool about the Cache Creek situation was Casey and I, we actually worked with KSL, which is a local big company here in Utah. They have, as you know, KSL Classifieds. Mm-hmm. And at the time that they had launched Classifieds back then, it was completely rudimentary. It was almost kind of like how Facebook Marketplace is, where it's just simple and like it's all clustered with a ton of things people are trying to sell. Mm-hmm. They had organized it, and they had classifieds, and they started to organize it into cars, homes, and then like everything else. And so we actually helped them design their home section to act like Google, where you could do the AdSense program and do banner ads over the pictures of the things people were selling or the homes that people were selling. And we showed KSL how to do that. And in perpetuity of that, we said, we want an exclusive contract if we help you design this, that Cache Creek Homes will be the only home builder to advertise for 3 years on this platform. Because they were getting hundreds of thousands to millions of eyeballs on KSL Classifieds, right? Mm-hmm. And so they agreed to it. We helped them build it out. It literally transformed the way KSL did their ads moving forward, how they would sell to other companies in different classified sections. But Cache Creek Homes got an exclusive because of Casey and I on that section, which blew it up. So when we were starting with Cache Creek Homes, they had 35 homes that they were building at the time we started working with them. After we worked with them for a year, the next year they did 80 homes. And the year after that, they did 130 homes. And the year after that, they did 250 homes. And this is during post-era of the biggest collapse.
Yeah, the biggest.
Yes, like in real estate history in America. And
everybody has a story of their, like, why they're affected from that
from
era.
2008.
Yeah.
It's,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was tragic. There's people in my life, like close to me, that went from hero to zero. I mean, lost everything because they had bet the house and built their empires in real estate, and everything turned upside down. And Schultz was pretty methodical about, as everyone was selling off land and selling off assets, he had the cash in hand to buy it like pennies on the dollar. So we were sitting on lots of land to develop, but we went out and created a digital marketing campaign that just crushed Utah. And so like Ivory Homes is a local builder that's like the #1 builder in Utah. We dethroned them for that 4-year run that they were the second home builder, most homes built in Utah after Cache Creek Homes. And through that experience, Casey and I learned so much about marketing, so much about branding, so much about like building companies and brands that we were building for clients through digital commerce and through social media, because this was all new. Mm-hmm. People just didn't understand how to use it or what it was for, other than just sharing their pictures. And so fast forward from that experience, what I learned from that kind of changed my outlook on like what I wanted to do next was I realized that I owned a business. I didn't own a company. And a business is something that you run. It's a business that requires your time, and you have to put everything into it. And so like in marketing agency, like the more people we hired, I still had to oversee that design or that marketing or that creative. And as many clients as we gained, I lost more time because I had to spend more time on their accounts. So I was like, this is not working. Like I want to go to sleep and make money. How do I do that? How do I build something that I can be sleeping, it makes money? And how do I take something from being just a business into a company that almost runs itself? And that's when Casey and I got together and we ideated. In 2013, we started creating some concepts and ideas for businesses and products we wanted to do. And that's actually when we ended up meeting one of our clients that became a client of ours that had already built a nutrition company for doctors and chiropractors. And he had been selling it B2B. It was just business to business. So he was selling directly to chiropractors, and then they were selling it to their patients. And he wasn't doing much direct. He didn't know how to do it. He wasn't a marketer. He wasn't very versed at it. And so he told us point blank at our first meeting, I remember, he's like, guys, I don't know how to do marketing. Like, I know how to make some products. I know how to like go show up at expos and shows and sell it to these chiropractors, but I just don't know how to do any of this stuff. And so he said, that's okay. That's why we're here. That's why your neighbor, Peter Miller, introduced us. So Peter, who was a real dear friend of mine that had been connected with me all the way back into my marketing days with Rob, ended up introducing us. And so we took his account, and in 3 months, we not only tripled his revenue that he had done the year prior, we had put him on a track that he was like, holy crap, we've never done this much in revenue. How did you guys do this? Most marketing companies come in, we work with them 6 months, we burn them out, we switch, nobody delivers on what they say. And we're like, dude, we're direct response marketers. Like, we understand how to create a response and a result from all the tools that we have and can use on social media and digital. And so he was super impressed with Casey and I. So he actually asked the question. I remember when he asked the question, he said, where could we make more products? And is there somewhere else we could make them that's maybe not in the gym space because it's super saturated? And what was really interesting is I remember when Casey and I looked at each other in that meeting, Casey's the one that spoke up and said, you know what? We could make products for the outdoor community because nobody's really doing it. And I kind of looked at Casey. I was like, dude, we grew up in the outdoors. We were raised outdoors. Like, we hunted with Dad every year. I obviously worked on outdoor brands for most of my life. Like, I was part of the industry. I was in the industry as much as I was as a consumer. I was actually helping the consumer buy products through outdoor brands. And I looked at Casey. I remember leaving that meeting. I was like, Casey, that's brilliant. Like, crazy enough, we had met the year before with a company called Wilderness Athlete, Chris Denham. And Chris owned Wilderness Athlete, promoted it through his Western Hunting magazine and TV show on the Outdoor Channel. And he had turned down an opportunity to work with Casey and I in our marketing company to do the marketing for them. So crazy enough, a year later, we now get the opportunity to start our own nutrition company, which we ended up coming up with the idea of Mountain Ops, right? And Mountain Ops was created and ideated between myself, Casey, and Joel, our other partner. And I came up with the name Mountain Ops because I loved Mountain Dew. And most people are like, how did you guys come up with the name Mountain Ops? And I remember one night I went home, and I was home thinking about all these different names. We'd come up with some crazy names of what we were going to call this brand and this opportunity. But I looked, and I loved Mountain Dew, and I loved at the time they had the new logo they had launched, which had MTN DEW. And I just loved that 6-letter acronym, and I loved how it looked. And I loved that Mountain Dew, like, I drank it all growing up. Like, my favorite one was Livewire. I loved Code Red. I loved all these Mountain Dews.
My husband is a huge Mountain Dew person. We have a fridge in our garage, and you open it, and it's literally a rainbow of just Mountain Dew.
It's like, so good. Like Baja Blast. Like, Taco Bell went from zero to hero. I mean, they've always made some, interesting food, but like, you go to Taco Bell for Baja Blast, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the play. And it's like, they've done so many cool variations. And as a brand, Pepsi really took Mountain Dew into the market, and they really focused on like the extreme sports space and really saying, hey, if you drink Mountain Dew, you're extreme. You're tough, and you're doing really cool things. And so I grew up snowboarding, wakeboarding, skateboarding, and doing all these different, individual sports besides basketball. And Mountain Dew was just something I adored. And so I was like, how could I call it something with like 3 letters? And when I came up with Mountain Ops, I checked online. I saw that it was available. And it was actually owned by a guy in Idaho who had started a snowboard company, but it had expired. The company had gone out of business. So the trademark was available. The domain became available. And I was like, I came to the office one day and I said to Casey, I said, I think I have the name of the company. And he's like, what is it? I'm like, it's Mountain Ops. It's MTN OPS. And the ops side is going to stand for either mountain operations, operating on a mountain, or outdoor performance supplements, the category that we wanted to create and we wanted to focus on with the brand. So it's like, it kind of can mean whatever it wants, but like Mountain Dew, it's going to be synonymous with a lifestyle about promoting outdoor health and wellness and like going out and conquering more of these things. And so we built the idea, the brand, the message, the name, the plan, the strategy. Me, Casey, and Joel, we all focused on that and went to market with it in 2014. It was in June, which is crazy to think it's going to be 11 years this year. Is that right? Yeah, 11 years since we launched that company. And
it is boom.
Yeah, we went from zero to hero really fast. Everything that we did was very intentional, though. A lot of people are like, man, you were lucky. I was like, luck is just opportunity that you meet one day and you take full advantage of it.
Yeah.
That luck is, people don't just get lucky. Every day you're presented with opportunity, and it's like a bus. The marquee says whatever the opportunity is, and you have the opportunity to jump on that bus and take it to its next stop, or to let it go and wait for the next one. And when I saw that marquee of Mountain Ops, I was like, I'm on this bus. And my personal vision and dream that Casey and I shared deeply was, we wanted to build the monster Red Bull Mountain Dew of the outdoor industry. We wanted to come in and create an experience that felt different, and we wanted to be different. And that's exactly what we did. So when people are like, you're lucky, I'm like, no, we were intentional. everything that we did has meaning and intention in it. That's the way Casey and I have designed brands, businesses, and companies and communities, is around things that are meaningful and that are full of meaning. And so I'm very grateful for the time that we had and for the experience and the ride that Mountain Ops was. And we still own it today, but we're minority stakeholders. We sold a majority stake of the company in 2020, which was crazy, right at the height of COVID. I mean, outdoor wasn't shut down. Health and wellness was top of mind. We were primed and positioned with enough stock and inventory that we were just blowing up. And the people that ended up purchasing us, they were like, you guys are a unicorn. They're like, we've never seen a brand that has this much loyalty in customer. The lifetime value of our customer at that time, this was year 6 of Mountain Ops, was 5 years. They were like, your customer doesn't leave you. How did you do that? And to acquire a customer, your customer acquisition costs are like less than $3. How did you do that? And it's like, oh, we haven't spent $1 on digital marketing ads for 5 years. And they're like, how did you do that? And it's like, it's everything that my brother and I knew how to do, that we had done at our marketing firm, that we applied to this same business when we created it. And so what was really fascinating at that time is so much was changing in the landscape of digital, and especially at 2020, everybody in CPG and in direct-to-consumer experienced something when the iOS update of no more sharing of that personal information with Meta, Google, and all that changed the whole landscape. Cost of acquiring a customer is now at all-time highs. It's very expensive to market digitally and so using ambassadors, using like promoters or influencers, like we did that all along the way. That helped us a ton to create even customers that became our crusaders. But we took all that learning into account, and that's how we started to ideate and create our next idea that you're sitting in today, that we're here. And that was not ESPN Top 10 Plays. That was a very long answer. You're sitting there like listening to this story. I hope all the listeners
I love
listened. I tried to condense that. There's so much in between, my 8-year-old self and my 33-year-old self. That was when I sold, a majority stake of my company, Mountain Ops. And even now with the last 5 years, there's been so much that I've been through and experienced. But before I go on, let's throw it back to you, because enough of me, right?
This is literally your podcast. No, I appreciate it. And I think it's really hard to condense that much time into such a little story. And a lot of people are going to sit there and say it's luck, but if you do your job well enough, then everybody thinks it looks easy. And that's the point of your skill, right? What was the moment in all of that you knew you wanted to take the risk on yourself?
I think it was at that point with Rob when we kind of had a discord in where I saw the market was going, the future of marketing, and where he was kind of stuck in his old ways. And like I had said before, as a young man, I watched my father and my grandpa as entrepreneurs. And so I kind of knew that was going to be my journey. I struggled in school. We talked a little bit earlier about the school system. I didn't fit into it.
Yeah.
I didn't thrive in it. It wasn't built or designed for me. I spent my days in class daydreaming, envisioning, and dreaming about the future, what I wanted to do or build and become. And so when that opportunity finally came, right, I met it head on and I said, it's time for me to go out on my own. And I remember, this is the crazy thing. I've told this to a lot of people, and I'm like, I never, from the day I decided to start my marketing firm with Casey, all the risk that might have been, I never assessed it. And when I even created Mountain Ops and sold my marketing firm to start Mountain Ops and do that, I never even assessed the risk or even thought about it. And everything that I've done in my life up to this point, I never assessed or analyzed the risk. I just jumped. And one of the things I always tell people is like in entrepreneurship, some people think that what they're going to do is we're going to sit on the runway, we're going to build and design this plane, we're going to put a prop on it, and then we're going to figure out where our takeoff is on the runway, right? That's how we start a company. And it's oh, no. How you start a company is you stand on the edge of a cliff and you look and you realize that there's a bottom that you could hit if you jump off. And so you jump. And as you're in the air, midair, you're building the plane before you hit the ground. And right before you hit the ground, if you're lucky enough, fortunate enough, and good enough to have built the plane and everything that you need to do by building out the wings, the tail, the cabin, the cockpit, and be able to man that plane, then right before you hit the ground, you'll be able to take off. And it's crazy because the concept and idea of, quote, building a plane in the air sounds stupid. And why would you do that? And that's entrepreneurship. That's why you would do it. It's because nobody else that's probably willing to will. They'll look at the edge of that cliff and they'll look, I'm going to die if I jump. And for me, I never even questioned the jump. I just did it. I didn't assess how much feet I had before I'd hit it. I didn't think about that. I knew it's what I wanted to do. I'm a very passionate person. So everything I do in my life is just driven by passion and purpose and by people. And so if there's an opportunity to impact people in a meaningful way and I can do that, I want to do it. And so I'll jump into whatever that thing is. And so, yeah, it's a great question you ask. And as I now am older and doing this opportunity, I think we've analyzed some of our risks more because we're more mature as business and entrepreneurs, but I'm still jumping into things and doing things without fully accepting or embracing what the odds are.
Yeah.
You know? It's like you watch Star Wars.
I mean, I've seen it.
Okay.
It's iconic, but am I a super nerd? No.
Yeah, okay. I'm a super nerd here. So there's a scene where Han Solo is flying the Millennium Falcon, and they're asking him, like, hey, we're going to try and fly in between, you know, these asteroids. And then C-3PO gives him the odds, literally the odds. And he literally says to him, don't ever tell me the odds. And then just goes into the asteroid field. And like, that's like how I've lived in my life. It's like people have told me what the odds are. Like, do you realize what the odds are of a successful hunting supplement company? Like, nobody takes supplements in hunting. Why would you even start that company or that category? Why would you even think about doing that? And I was like, it's exactly why I want to do it. Because nobody's really done it.
So would you say that that's like something that you just like one of your characteristics, your core, or is that something that you had to work on to be like that's not an option?
It's my nature. Literally, when people tell me I can't, I want to do it so bad. One of the successful sports personalities that I probably resonate the most is who I share a name with, Michael Jordan. And I grew up adoring him. I mean, I loved watching him play. I loved his mindset mentality and his championship mindset of how he raised all of his teammates around him to rally around a mindset and mentality of like, we're going to put in the work, we're going to work hard, we're going to outwork everybody else, and we're going to go out there and we're going to compete, and we're going to play as a team, and we're going to compete at a level that nobody else is, and we're going to win championships. You have the dynasty of the Chicago Bulls. And if you ever watch The Last Dance, which is the documentary on Netflix, like, he talks about his mindset mentality and how he always had a chip on his shoulder. And
it's got dark in here.
And he would always shoot the lights out, apparently, you know, just like
like 2 more seconds. And you
yeah, it's like literally like look, our podcast is so good. It just took the lights out. Like, we just threw the lights down on this.
Shut down the power.
But it's, what's interesting is, and it looks like we have pretty good color. I'm going to go stand.
Well, it's okay. Either way.
Sometimes it has sensory, so
This commercial break is sponsored by Black Flag. If you're ready to take on, just kidding.
We have a commercial break in the middle of this podcast. We want to bring it. This podcast is brought to you by Black Flag Revenge. Make sure you get your revenge today at blackflag.com, BLK FLG.
You have such a good radio voice.
I have a face for radio, as they say. But kind of coming right back and weaving before the lights went out, with Michael Jordan there's a part in Michael Jordan's story that he talks about how he has a chip on his shoulder. And so there was players that would tell him that they could like defend him or stop him. Or Karl Malone won the MVP the year he had better stats. And so that year he won the championship and the MVP finals. And I've operated more in my life with a chip on my shoulder because I've actually lived a life that I didn't kind of get into the details of, with people always counting me out. I've lived a life where most people don't believe in me. I've lived a life where people have told me that I'm not enough or I'm not capable, or I've had people tell me that I can't do it. And so throughout my life, I've lived with these different chips on my shoulder from these different people who have told me these things. And whether they knew they were saying them or how they were saying them or how they would affect me, some of these people were very close. We're talking family. I mean, people in your life that, you know, you would think are the closest, and the people that would be cheering you on the most were actually the ones that were telling you you can't do it. And friends of mine that said, you're insane. Why would you do that? And so what's crazy about my mindset mentality that I've had in life is it's very much the same as Michael Jordan's. I've wanted to prove them all wrong, and I've always wanted to prove myself right, like Steph Curry says. And that for me has been a motivator and a driver. And, you know, some people would say, is that really a great motivator to have, to prove your peers wrong or to prove them right? I said, yeah. I mean, every day I woke up motivated to build something meaningful and to show people that they were wrong. And what's sad is that I knew that some of these people, that they didn't understand me. I'm a very not well understood individual. I'm very bold. I'm very outgoing. I'm very outspoken. I'm very passionate. I can be a lot for people. Jordan Harbertson is not for everyone. I understand that. And that's true in life for everyone. We're not for everyone. That's not how we were created or meant to be. We're supposed to find those people in our lives that are our clan, our crew, our biggest cheerleaders and supporters and promoters. And you want to make sure you know who it is that you're hanging out with, because it's the 5 friends in your life that you spend the time with that you ultimately will become, because of how you talk to each other, how you dream together, how you do life together is ultimately how you manifest and build the things in your life that you want to do. And so I say that not that I need any pity from any listener on this podcast or for anybody to take pity on me. I've lived a life with intention and meaning, and I've lived a life with opposition and obstacles, a lot of them. And one of those is like mental health, right? Like I suffer from depression a lot. It's crazy. People meet me and they're like, you're the most happy, energetic guy I've ever known. It's like, it's who I am. It's my core. It's how God designed me. It's my very being. It's my very soul. But I struggle every day in my life. I've struggled with keeping depression at bay because I care so much for people and I love people that when I'm mistreated by people, it's really hard for me to process. And I've had to learn throughout my life how to deal with that, how to monitor that, how to build defense systems around myself so that I can protect myself from those moments when depression starts to make its way into my life. And it's not something that's easy. It's really not. And for everybody listening, I get asked a lot when I have these really intimate, meaningful conversations with individuals who are struggling with this. They'll ask me, they're like, Jordan, how do I get through it? I'm like, I don't think you're going to like the answer, but I'm going to tell you it because I've been through it multiple times in my life. I've had different episodes that were very crippling in my life. That I've had one episode that in junior high, I almost killed myself. And I got to the point where I knew where the gun was, the weapon, and how I was going to do it. And I got all the point before I didn't do it. And so I know what it's like to be at the very bottom of your health and mental health and well-being, to the point where you're ready to like end this life. And so I've never been there at that level again since then, because once you've been there and you experience it, it's dark, it's scary, and it's not something that you ever want to experience again. So I've had depression since then in different ways, but I've never gotten to that level like I did in junior high. But I've been at some really low points. And what I usually share with people that I'm like, you're not going to like the answer, is there's no drug, there's no medicine, there's no therapy that's going to get you through this. You have to get through it. It's the only way. And the only way through it is through it. And the process of getting through it is understanding that every day that you're in that darkness and you're so hopeful for a shade or just a glimmer of light, you have to recognize that the light will come, the storm will pass. It's just a storm. Storms come and they go, just like depression, it comes and goes. If you don't stay in the storm, you don't follow the storm eventually passes. And what comes next is a beautiful, bright, sunny day. And to emerge through that storm, it takes perseverance. It takes being relentless. It takes fighting your roommate, as I say, which is the voice in your head that's actually putting you and keeping you in a depressed state. And so I think it's interesting. And I know that kind of just went in a direction you're probably like, wow, we didn't know we were going to go there, Jordan. But I've learned through life and life's experiences that, you know, as I've become more self-aware of depression and anxiety and these things that are very inhibiting and very much detractors from living very meaningful, happy, and joyful lives, it really takes the strength of both your heart, your soul, and your spirit to unify and believe in yourself. Because I always tell people, like pirates, you know, when you put the SOS out there, unfortunately, nobody's coming. You're on your own. And in life, the sooner that you learn that and embrace that, the better that you're going to live a more beautiful and meaningful life, because it becomes less dependent on what others can do to help you change your life. and it becomes all dependent on you in order and how you will ultimately change your life. You're at the helm of your own ship. The only person that I will say that is coming, that's always there, is your Savior. He will always be there to support you, to help you, to guide you, to give you inspiration, to give you light, to give you hope, to give you meaning. He's the greatest commander of any ship in any life. He commands the seas itself, as he said. I mean, he walked on water. Like, he can do anything, but he inspires each and every one of us. He doesn't do the work for us. Even though he took on everything for each and every one of us, he didn't remove the ability for us to do it ourselves. And so I always tell people, no one's coming. And they're like, wow, that's really depressing. That's a sad thought. And it's like, no. Let me explain. Nobody's coming. And so as soon as you accept that, now your journey can really begin, and you can go through this on your own, which is what you will do, but you don't have to go it alone. There are meaningful people in relationships in your life that will support you, will help you, they'll love you, but they're pedestrians. They can only look on. They're watching the game in the arena. They're watching you go through the experience, but they can't go through it for you. And so it's just to concept that is to not create any dark and gloom. It's to say that once you've done it, like exercising and working out, you will develop a mental muscle that you will be able to have the strength to overcome these obstacles in your mind and in your life that come at you through depression and through anxiety. And I one of the things that I really love that's been said before, that when they talk about the 3 levels of peace, depression, and anxiety, this is how you can understand when you have depression, when and why you have anxiety, and how you can have peace. How you accomplish that is to understand that depression comes by looking behind you. It's regrets. It's filled with regrets. It's something that you've done or did or didn't do, and you're depressed by the nature of looking behind it, something that you didn't do or something that was done to you. It's something. Depression comes from the past, and anxiety comes from the future. Anxiety comes in and is part of your life because you're so anxious for if you're going to fail next, or if you're not going to build the life that you want to build, or if things are going to come your way, or a hardship, like you're almost anticipating the worst, right, that's going to happen. And so you live in a state of angst because you're anxious about the future. And the only way in which you can calm these 2 storms that are on both the past and your future is to stand in the present. And when you can learn to be more present in your life, you learn to gain and have more peace. And when you have more peace, you can make better decisions, and you can create a better and brighter future. And you can also recognize that what happened in the past is done and you can't change it. The lights that are now off in that room are never going to come back on. They only come on when you go flip the switch and you go back in the past and you're like, yo, what? Let me flip on this room of this experience, this moment in my life that I had that was like depressing and sad. And it's like, turn the light off, shut it off. Like, just like what happened to us here in this room, like turn the lights off, turn the switch down, and focus on your future, but be present in the moment that you're living in so that you can make the decisions in a state of mind that's at peace, so that you can better decide how your future will look or what you will do to build the future you want. And when I started to learn that concept and understand the differences between depression and anxiety and where they live in your life, it changed my total perspective and outlook on life at large, and where I wanted to start spending more of my time and trying to focus. Because my biggest struggle in life, this is another thing I really struggle with. I struggle with being present because I'm a visionary. I live in the future. I tend to build things 5 to 10 years out. So the moment that I stand in the moment of something that I dreamed of 5 years ago, I have a hard time like just standing in it, because I'm like, oh, I already lived this, I already felt this, I already experienced this. And so my wife, sometimes she hates it so much because she's like, dude, just be present. Stop thinking about tomorrow, like live in today. And that's honestly been one of my greatest trials, is learning how to create a mindset of being present. And I can say to everyone today, in the last 5 years, I've done a lot better job as a father, as a husband, as a spouse, as a business partner, as anything that I have a responsibility to. I've really started to develop a better way in which I can be more present in the moments that I'm like this one I am with you, like this moment that we're having together on this podcast, not worrying about the train that's passing, the cars that are behind me, or the gym that's going on, the music, and all the chaos of like running a business. We're just here having a meaningful conversation between you and I, talking about life. And this moment is very meaningful to me, and I'm sitting in it with you, and we're having it, and it's wonderful. And I'm not worried about what my next meeting is or what I didn't do yesterday. It's like, but that's not easy to develop. And every day I'm working on it. I'm not perfect at it, and it's something that's hard. And so, yeah, that's a big thing that I think for me in my life and in my career, you know, I actually don't have any regrets, and I'm not depressed about any decisions that I've made in my entrepreneurial journey. There's things that I do regret that I could have done better, but I was naive. I was immature. I didn't understand a lot of things that I should have, but all that learning now has come into my current state of flow, where I'm like in this flow state of like, I'm really excited about life, what we're doing now and where we're going and who we're doing it with. And it's just really exciting what's going on everywhere in life.
Yeah. You touched on a lot of things that I think I don't know, good Lord knew I needed to hear, because it's really hard to decide to, one, take risks on yourself and choose you, and then to go through that mental battle is really hard, and the depression and everything. So thank you for...
It's a real thing. And I think, and you know, the thing that's tough is we talk about in this country, you know, there's a lot of focus on like drugs and alcohol, right? It's a big industry. You know, there's a lot of deaths and a lot of fatalities that come from that industry, and it's very sad. And what we don't highlight very often are the fatalities that happen often in mental health. And, you know, I think what's crazy is when you actually can get a room, if you and I could sit in a room with like 100 people, and I asked everybody, do you know anybody who's ever committed suicide? 100 hands would raise, because there's somebody in somebody's life somewhere that knows someone or was connected to someone that decided to make that act. And getting to the point of deciding to make that act, I have empathy only up into the point of before the trigger might be pulled. I don't have an understanding of what happens next because I didn't do it, but I understand everything that one goes through, and the mental fight that you have with your roommate in your head, and the depression that you put yourself in, the way you kick yourself down, the way you tell yourself that you're not worth anything, or that nobody wants you, or that you're not valuable to this world, and the world would be, as you think in your head, better without you. And that is the biggest lie. So for anybody that's listening to this podcast, what I tell you is like, don't listen to your roommate. You have got to, every day you have to wake up. And they always say that one of the darkest times that you can spend sometimes is with yourself. There's nobody who will beat you up more than your roommate. I mean, there's people in your life that might say things about you that cause you to question, you know, maybe your integrity, your character, or your worth, and all these things. No, go sit with yourself and watch how much you beat yourself up. And it's a battle, it's a fight that you have to be willing to learn how to defend yourself against your roommate. That voice inside your head that makes you believe that you're something less than what you are. And I think that's the thing in life that sometimes we don't talk enough about, or we even talk through. Therapy seems to be one of the things that, because what therapy should do is it should help you verbalize and talk through your issues and your feelings, because otherwise, who are you having therapy with? Your roommate, yourself. And that is the worst therapist, because that therapist technically sometimes is like, no.
Just wants to bring you down.
It just wants to bring you down. But,
Yeah.
but here's the truth too. Energy changes and shifts based on choices. When you make conscious decisions, your consciousness will begin to change the way in which it talks to you. And so that's where there's times in our lives where we have a roommate, we're like, dude, I hate my roommate. He's just always in my head. He's nagging. He's just annoying. He's telling me I'm not worthy. And then when you hit a state of flow state, and you're in this cognitive state where you've really got good energy, you've got good vibes, you've got good focus, good goals, and you're starting to have all these wins, your mindset and energy shifts. And so that roommate becomes a positive reinforcer, and you start to be telling yourself, I can do this. And so don't let this podcast, don't let me focus on the doom and gloom. Let's now focus on the opposite flip side of that, which is a roommate and an energy and a focus, and where you are positively accomplishing things in your life and doing things you never thought you could do. And that's the thing that I find most often, that I love most about the human experience and about people, especially like you and others, is like when you and I talked, I remember we were talking at the Hunt Expo, and you were sharing with me, I mean, just this vibrant energy. You were like, dude, Jordan, I'm doing this podcast. This is how I'm going to do it. I want it to be this way. And you're just envisioning with me, and you're just storyboarding it right there in front of me. And I could feel that energy, and I could feel that confidence, and I could feel that this is something that you really passionately wanted to do. And you're like, I'm going to do it. And look, here you are, 15 episodes in, and you're doing it. And most people will never do the first episode. So you've already beaten the less than 99% that won't, and you're part of the 1% that did. And that's how life works, is we've got to learn when to take our shots. You said the question earlier, you asked me the question, like calculating risk. How have you calculated risk in your life? And to be honest with you, I haven't done a good job at that. I've just taken my shots every time I get one because I'm just always about risking it all. I've just actually been someone who's like, hey, let's just burn the ships and let's go, right? But I've also now had to learn in life that you don't just burn the ships. Make sure you get all the supplies off, get everything that you need, and then burn that ship, and then there's no way but forward after that. And you have no way for it to go back, and no safety net that's waiting for you, or no vehicle or no ship that's going to take you somewhere else. You've got to go forward. And that's kind of a pirate's mentality that I've always lived and loved and had in my life that's always guided me pretty well, I'd say.
Well, let's go into that. So you talked about jumping off a cliff and building a plane.
Ship.
Let's talk about building a ship and how we got into building Black Flag.
So Black Flag, guys, is this inspiring and total vision that Casey and I had 2.5 years ago. So after we sold a majority stake in Mountain Ops, new partners came in and decisions and things changed, and we participated a little in the business, but weirdly enough, this is going to be weird for listeners to understand, but we weren't wanted at Mountain Ops anymore. It was kind of a really hard thing for Casey and I to experience. Our old partner didn't want us anymore. Our new partners kind of listened to him and said, yeah, I guess we don't want the Harbertson brothers anymore. So we were kind of forced out, and we were kind of pushed out of our own company, which was a really hard experience for Casey and I to go through. But we went through it. We learned from it. And instead of just sitting there and being depressed about it and, being like, oh, we're like, you know what? Let's do what we've always done in life, is take an opportunity now that we're free to do what we want, and let's go do it again. But if we're going to do it again, let's do it different. And so that's when we started to conceptualize this idea. So when I left Mountain Ops, I went into private equity and venture capital, and I learned how to invest my own money and investors' money in opportunities like real estate, gas and oil, solar, energy, venture investing in businesses, both early stage, mid stage, and late stage. And I started really quick going to school for financial, like somebody who's going into finances, like how do you build funds of funds and take hundreds of millions of dollars and invest it into all these opportunities and return that back. And what I learned through the process was it was very disenfranchising for me. And the reason why was, this is no offense to even the people who are still in my funds that I still work with, but working with investors, and they kind of complain about making money on their money. I was like, this is not what I was designed or built to do. And so I learned a lot, I experienced a lot, but I learned really fast that I love building communities. I've always done that in my career. I love building brands that communities rally behind and fly the flag of. And so I was like, I want to go do that again. But now this time, where I started in my career as a marketing, and then built my marketing firm, learned how to do that, build brands and businesses through that, and then built my own Mountain Ops. I told Casey, I was like, let's do it again, but let's do it very different. And so I kind of concepted with him this idea of what I called VXC. And so what VXC to me is a new category that we've designed and developed that's called Venture Experience Capital. Because most things are just venture capital, which is we have capital for your ventures. Most of these people that invest in brands and businesses, they don't have much experience. Honestly, they just know spreadsheets. They understand how to invest other people's money and gamble is really what it is. 19 ships go out. They invest in all 19 ships, 19 or 20 ships. And let's say 19 ships go down at sea with captains and crew at the bottom of the ocean. They never reach port. One ship hits port and they call themselves heroes. And they're like, we're so good at investing. And it's like, yeah, but we're not going to talk about the other 19 dreams, hopes, ambitions, visions that these entrepreneurs and founders had that you gave them their money, but then their businesses failed or weren't successful because you came in too early and you either took control of their situation or you didn't provide the experience they needed. And so I said, I think there's a better way to do this, Casey. Let's build and take the 20 plus years of our experience and let's build venture experience capital. So what that means is I've never seen a VC company build a lifestyle brand for their VC. They just invest in them, right? We invest in lifestyle brands. I'm like, if you're good at investing in lifestyle brands, you understand how to build them, then why don't you do it yourself? So I said, let's be who we say we are, and let's actually build a lifestyle brand that helps to fund opportunities for early stage business ideas And let's focus those ideas and opportunities in the outdoor space because we're passionate and love that space so much. And that space has obviously given us so much. Let's do everything to give back. And I said, let's build a really cool brand. What are we going to call it? So Casey comes to me, and interestingly enough, he has on his desk in there, and his license plate, he was driving a black Cadillac, and his license plate said Black Flag, BLK FLG. And just like Mountain Ops, MTN OPS, the Harbertson brothers just like to do things in acronyms, right? And in short form, in 6 letters and 3 on each side. And so I was like, that's dope. And Casey and I, by and large, we have been obsessed with piracy our whole lives. Like, I've lived a pirate's life since I was a kid. From the very moment I could put a costume on for Halloween, I spent the next 8 years, from 2 years old to 8 years old, being
and
a
this
pirate.
is accurate. I've seen Halloween pictures.
I showed you the photos. They're all on here.
It's true.
I told people, and from there on, I've always kind of had a pirate's mentality about how I've done things in my life. And I've always been kind of obsessed with the history and lore of piracy. And so I said, Casey, if we're going to do it again, if we're doing a pirate brand, we're going to do it all the way. Everything's going to be very intentional. So I'm like, let's build an icon that represents, that pays both honor and homage to pirates of old within that 17th century era, the golden era of piracy. And let's build it so that iconically it looks familiar, but it stands alone, and it's something that feels new and modern. And so we came up with, for those that are watching the podcast, we came up with the icon here, which is the skull and the cross bolts. And so as I designed that, which was what blew my mind as I was designing it, was as I looked into like trademark and like, am I infringing on something that's already been done? Nobody had ever trademarked crossing of lightning bolts. And they'd done bones, swords, other items, you know, golfers even use tees. Like, there's all these items, but lightning bolts in that application had never been done. So I knew we had something special, because what I loved about the icon we developed, and with all the intention and design that we put into it, if you look at the icon, it represents and stands for what we believe, and in the way in which we've both lived our personal lives and our business lives, and how we intend to help others do the same. And that is intentional. About the X and the cross itself represents light, bringing that everywhere we go. Energy, disruption, noise, speed. These are things that we have lived and done our whole lives. When you're building a plane in the air, you got to do it with speed, or you're going to hit the ground, right? And you've got to do things with light everywhere you go, and bring that into all the darkest places of the world. And so as we did that, the other thing is just like pirates, X marks the spot, right? X marks the spot of experience and knowledge and treasures. And so we wanted that to be a symbol that embodies and represents everything that we believe here. The skull has a lot of intention behind it too. As you look at the skull, it doesn't have a jaw. And the reason why I removed the jaw from the skull is because my brother and I were raised by our dad, Scott, who always told us to be men of action. And so our actions in our life and business and how we've lived our lives has always been, our actions speak louder than any word I can ever give you. So we removed the jaw because we don't speak what we're going to do. We just do it. And we want to inspire other people to take action and do the same, and not just listen to words or hear words, but go actually do what you mean to do, right? And so with that icon, what's great about it is it feels familiar. When people see it, they're like, pirates? You guys a bunch of pirates, right? And so it's like, yeah, we're totally a bunch of pirates over here. And what's cool is we've helped a few brands in the industry, both start and some that were already in the market, but we've helped grow. So we have partners with Nathan Goodworth from from Ollin. Ollin's a digiscoping platform that Nathan designed and built and dreamed up. And he's the founder of that project that we came in and helped him launch, and we've helped him since grow it. And we're partners with him today on it. And Caleb at Sheep Feet, who took custom orthotics from what his family had been doing for I believe it was over 50 years, and brought it to hunting and said, now we're going to build custom insoles and orthotics for the everyday hunter and enthusiast. And we've got another brand that we brought under the Black Flag, which is Cardiff, which is a premier Ferrari of snowboarding and skiing. And so we have passions in snowboarding and skiing. So I've always dreamed of owning my own snowboard company, and that dream was realized this last year when we acquired Cardiff. And so we've got these brands underneath Black Flag, but then Black Flag also has its own brand, and it also has its own product. And so we launched in October a brand new nutritional product under a name that will be synonymous with every product we design under it, called Revenge. And what's so cool about the name Revenge and the idea behind it was, I remember when Casey came in the office and he told me, hey, so I think I figured out the name of the product. Because one of the names we came up with for Mountain Ops and our most successful product that Casey and I designed back in like 2016, that's still the number one selling product out over there, is Mountain Ops Ignite. And the idea behind Ignite was to ignite your day and ignite your life and, ignite all these activities that you do. And we learned so much from that experience of designing that formula and designing that product and naming it that way, because it had a lot of intention of what it was to do. It was to be kind of the equalizer to any energy source you can consume from. It was better energy, cleaner energy, healthier energy. And so with all this new development, all this new innovation that's in nutraceuticals and within supplementation, we've gone back to the drawing board 2 years ago to redesign and reimagine a better formula that provided a better outcome and a better experience for consumers. And so when we designed it and we had it and we were like, what do we name it? I remember when Casey came in the office and he's like, okay, what was the most famous pirate? And I'm going to ask you the question, actually. Okay.
Oh, no,
let's
no.
See, let's a little quiz for you, like pirate quiz.
I'm going to fail.
What is the most famous pirate ship in the fleet of pirates from the 17th century? From the most famous, notorious pirate of all?
I don't know, but I actually, now that you're saying it, I remember us talking about it at the expo.
Okay, he has
Is it Blackbeard?
yes.
I was going to say Blackbeard because we have a...
We're there. We're almost there. Okay, so
okay.
Blackbeard's ship. Do you remember the name of Blackbeard's ship?
I don't know, like the Black Pearl. That's the only thing I remember.
That was
for
Jack
Pirates.
Sparrow's ship.
I know. I'm like, that's the only thing I remember. I'm ruining
thanks to
this
Disney,
for you.
that's become a very famous ship, the Black Pearl. But his ship was called Queen Anne's Revenge. And so it was one of the most revered ships, one of the most feared ships in the fleet. When it was out at sea and he raised his black flag that had his logo and mark on it, and people knew that Blackbeard was coming, they fled in fear, or they rose a white flag really quick because they didn't want any of that smoke. And he commandeered many ships, vessels, and sloops over his career as a pirate within that era. And he did it. The stories that are written about Blackbeard are fascinating. Whether they're true or not, they're lore or they're fact. Like, he was a revered, respected, and feared pirate on the seven seas. And he did a lot of good to help the pirates at that time, created a very successful establishment in Nassau, and began to disrupt what became the three different empires that they disrupted: the English, the Spanish, and the French, right? All at the same time. And I'll talk a little bit more about kind of how that ties into everything that we're doing. But
I'm just going to check something real fast.
yeah, the name of the product that Casey came up with is, he called it Revenge. He said, let's call it Revenge.
Sorry, it's just like...
It's okay, we have another commercial break here, brought to you by Black Flag Revenge. Make sure to ignite your bones with Black Flag Revenge. Get your revenge today at blackflag.com. Enjoy the sweet revenge that it brings every time you consume it on a daily basis.
I went through my cards last night. I had to delete all my memory last night, and it just said I had... And it doesn't matter. Anyway.
You're good.
Back
You're
to
good.
the pirate ship.
So back to the pirate ship, Revenge. So Revenge is essentially what Casey said. Nobody gets to vote on this. It's the name of the product. It's Revenge. And I remember when he said it out loud, how like I got chills. And then Casey said, okay, but here's how it plays. Pirates were always known for revenge and getting revenge on the different empires or different people, in their era and time. He said, or obviously, because we're modern pirates, we're going to make a new and modern twist. And we're going to take this word that's synonymous with vengeance, and we're going to tell people to get vengeance or revenge on their roommate, which is themselves. And the version of yourself that is keeping you from becoming who you're meant to be, and the potential that you have inside that's being subdued by a voice inside your head and excuses and obstacles and things that you kind of justify to say, I just am who I am. And the reality is that's just completely untrue, just like we talked about earlier on this podcast. And so we want to help inspire people through our products to get vengeance on that version of themselves that's keeping them from living the most adventurous life on horizons that await you, that you are not going towards, or you're not selling towards, because you're like, I'm just going to stay on land. I'm not going to go sell at sea. I'm not going to go risk it. I'm not going to take risks. I'm just going to play it safe. It's like, no, that version of you is keeping you from living a life that you were meant to live and a person who you are meant to be. And so our hope and idea behind our whole brand, our whole message, and everything that we're doing with Revenge is to inspire just that. And our tagline for that is get yours, because we want everyone to get yours. And every day, no matter what you're doing and how you're doing it, get out there, get today, get after it, get revenge, get your revenge on whatever it is, whatever that obstacle is that's in your way or in your path, whatever that excuse is that you make every day in your life and every morning, get revenge on that. And listen, there's maybe some things and some people in your life that you might want to get revenge on too. And as a pirate, it's definitely a motivator, but we're not trying to inspire that, but that might be part of your process. But that's how we came up with the name of the product. And so this product that, I'm drinking right here is our Revenge Energy, Clarity, and Focus. And we've got a line of new products that will be under the Revenge name that are coming out too. And we've developed truly the best energy drink on the market. And the reason why I say that is the science that is inside this, the actual both patented, registered, trademark ingredient compounds that have been case studied and proven. That's how they can get a trademark. That's how they can be proven to say, hey, this actually through case studies has shown to provide this outcome for consumers.
I'm going to kill this camera.
Oh, you're fine. If I'm not on camera, remember, I'm a face for radio.
It's just
People are probably already falling asleep anyway. Like, dude, this guy talks too much. We haven't even heard from her at all. But that's the reality is we spent an ample amount of time designing and developing from everything we learned from our prior years and experience at our last company, how we could develop or design a product that would provide a better experience and a better outcome. And the difference that this provides from prior product as well as from existing product on the market is most of the things that we recognize that we didn't have in our last product that wasn't apparent was we had energy, so you were stimulated. We had focus, so you were focused, but sometimes a person can be stimulated and focused, but they're focused on not really doing anything. They're not actually motivated by those things. And so they kind of are lacking urgency. And so we paired this with mood enhancing properties that created a sense of clarity so that if you have a goal in mind, if you have something that you want to do, you're not only going to feel energized, you're going to feel focused. You now have clarity and motivation. So you feel a sense of urgency to do. It actually promotes you to accomplish something. And you have a mood that's positive and you feel good. And so when people consume this now, they notice a significant difference. I always tell people, just try it once.
No, it's actually crazy. Like
you've experienced it.
I've experienced it, and I'm not I'm the pickiest drink person. Like, I want to be a drink girly, a beverage girly, but I'm like, once I find my one thing, that's the only thing that I want. And I'm already out of all my bottles that you gave me, so I have to grab some more. But
and the best is you came to the right place. We have lots of loot that you can take from.
Well, what I like as a woman, I think there's like a lot of supplements out there that like make me feel like, even though they promote or market or say that they have the ingredients that help you, like I don't feel bloated. I don't feel gross. Like I feel like I can drink it and not
feel those experiences.
Disgusting. Mm-hmm. And sometimes like when it is, not that this is, but if it is like a male-based product, they enhance it towards a man's body. And like this, I feel like Austin drinks it and I drink it, and I have to tell him to stop drinking it because he's drinking all. But it doesn't, like me as a woman, like as my body, especially like all the changes my body has gone through in the last year, like with having a baby and being postpartum.
Because you have menopause, postpartum. You may even also have hormone, right?
Yeah, I'm all over the place.
Yep.
My weight is a huge thing.
Yep.
Like
the fluctuation of that.
Yeah, I've lost 95 pounds in the last year, which is
amazing.
Insane. And so like all of that, going through all of everything I've gone through in the last year, and I still drink this and I don't feel gross. Like I don't feel icky.
So you've essentially got what we call a revenge body.
I've got the revenge body.
Yes.
I still got work to do.
At the end of the day, there's always work to be done, right? The chisel is always there to chisel more and to kind of take that marble and make it into something beautiful. Yeah. And you're the one that's got that chisel in hand.
Obviously, like it does go towards your body because your body's intaking it. Yes. But like you said, going back to the mindset, like I drink this every time before I like edit a podcast, and I have to stay up till 3:00 doing it or something, like it just gets me in the mindset and helps me. So not that I'm promoting the product because I'm not paid.
No. You're a genuine user.
I am a genuine loser. I'm a genuine loser, guys. It's fine. User. And I actually really like it.
And what I love about what you said about you and Austin is when we launched the 50 serve tub, right? The 50 serve tub was actually intentional because we knew from our experience prior that what typically would happen is the man will try it, and it's the women that will buy it. Because what happens is there's 50 surfs, there's 25 for you and 25 for him. You guys can share it, but eventually you're like, dude, I want my own scoops. I want my own bottle. And it was kind of a him, hers sharing capability and ability, because we knew, like, once you get that into the home, once that's in the cupboard, once they see someone trying it, their husband trying it, they're going to try it too. And it's built for both. And you validated both what we already knew and believed it would be. And that's why I say it's incredibly clean. It's very healthy. We're radically transparent on our label with what's in there. And all of these ingredients that we use in there, like diamine and nitrogen and all these like case studied ingredients registered and trademarked, they have all of their studies and all of their information that you can read that shows what it will do to improve your experience. What I love about what you just said is you're like, I take it when I really need to get focused, when I need to improve the mood and like just get stuff done. And that's why we say, like, people say, so there's a pre-workout. And I will say, no, it's not, because a pre-workout defines it only as something you take before a workout. We call this a pre-lifer.
Which I personally like, because I usually have my coffee in the morning, and then in the afternoon I like this can be a light beverage, or at the evening where you don't want to drink like a soda or something else. So I like it.
And the thing that is like my wife, like, she takes like those Alani News. So like she loves a little texture, she loves a little caffeine and a little hit from that. But I mean, it's nice to have variety, but when you're like, hey, I need something tried true that's reliable, that I know I can take, that's what we designed in this. And so some of the other products we have coming out will pair well with everything that we designed in this, and how it will continue to improve the experience of all the adventures that you want to experience in your life and the things that you want to do. And so that's a big part of helping people to get yours. Is we're building with every intention product that's designed to help those who seek adventures, or for adventure seekers, right? For those land pirates and those water pirates and the people in life that want to go out and just fly a black flag and be very intentional about what you're doing and what you intend to get from life. And that's why we called it Black Flag. Like we talked about with Blackbeard, like the meaning of a black flag is, as they say, to raise the colors, is to signal to everyone at sea what your intentions are. So in nautical, communication back then, like, to raise any banner, any flag of certain color may communicate to the other vessel at sea what you may be doing or not doing, or you intend to communicate in some way, or to just say what's up, or to say like, hey, we want to engage with you, or to say, hey, as pirates did, we're going to raise the black. When you saw those skull and crossbones, the Jolly Roger, you saw Ratcham's like skull and cross swords, you saw Blackbeard's, his skull with the spear in the heart. Like, you saw these marks of pirates, these brands and logos that were raised in black. What that literally meant was, we're going to fire one across your bow and give you fair warning, and you're going to raise a white flag, and we're going to come and take what we want. Or you're going to engage with us, and it's going to be a conflict, and we're going to come aside, and we're going to come aboard, and we're going to take what we want, right? And so that pirate mindset mentality is so beautiful. But the one thing that I wanted to say about pirates that a lot of people don't even know is how they influenced America, and how they actually had one of the sweetest revenges of all. Crazy thing about the 17th century pirates, I'll condense this in a way that I've read a lot of books about piracy and a lot of the history, and what was written by the victors who undid the pirates. They write about how the pirates are these heinous, horrible people, because for King George and for the British, like, they disrupted a lot of their trade, a lot of their empire at that time. And also the British and the French and the Spanish, they all didn't like him, because they were all getting in their business. And so when you actually read some of the history, the journals, and some of the entries that we still have from some of these famous pirates, you talk about what their core beliefs were in Nassau. It was a republic of pirates, as they said. They had a society of a free man state. And so where the British actually didn't care about the pirates, because if you remember back then, the British were operating out of Boston, New York Harbor, and up there in America, as they were kind of beginning to take over more of America. Down in Florida, that's where the Spanish were kind of coming in with their armadas, taking gold and taking it back to the emperor. And then we have the Spanish or the French quarters, Louisiana, where the French were coming in with their fine silks and fine goods, and they were kind of trading in between the Americas. And so in between the Caribbean, Florida, and the French quarters, those two were getting intercepted by pirates, and they were trying to take some of their goods, right, to be able to survive and create a society. And it wasn't until the pirates actually intercepted the slave trade routes of the British coming up from Africa that's when the British were like, we're done with these guys. We make a lot of money selling these people into slavery. And they're coming in and taking our ships. They're commandeering our goods, which are human beings, and they're bringing them back into their society and freeing them and allowing them to become free men to contribute to society or to join the crew and be part of and make a wage. And so they were the first ones that were trying to really abolish slavery during that era. And that's what pissed off the British. And so they took their full force and navy and brought it right against the pirates, which is what ended them. But here's the crazy thing. When those pirates were disrupted and disbanded, they went right from Nassau back to where many of them came from in the North America. And they began a movement that changed from pirate to patriot. And we have the movement of 1776, right after the pirates' reign of the Golden Era, where they got the sweetest revenge on the empire that updid them. They kicked their ass out of America, and they created what is now America. And so what's cool about pirates and piracy is it's intricately woven into the tapestries of our American history in what they did as men and women to inspire men and women to fight and rebel against a society or a system and a monarchy that would tell them what to do instead of them, as they were trying to do in Nassau, let everyone decide for themselves what they want to do. And so it's actually really cool. And so like the history of piracy, our brand, and what we're trying to do here at Black Flag is to build a new golden era of piracy in a modern time within the 2000s, if you will, so that we can have everyone who wants to come join the crew be inspired or to inspire others to get revenge, as we said, on yourself or the things in your life that are keeping you from becoming who you should become, and to raise a black flag in your own life and be very intentional about what you do every day when you wake up and signal to everyone at sea or on land what you're going to do. Because I always tell people, life is never going to give you anything. It was never meant to give you anything. You are responsible to get out of life what you will. And just like a pirate, you're going to have to take from life what you will. And so that same mentality of saying, you know what, I'm going to just come in and I'm going to take what I want is a good, healthy mindset to have. And then, as we say, do as pirates did, but in a modern time, take everything you can and turn around and give everything back. And, you know, the old saying was take everything and give nothing back. That's what pirates used to say, right? Let's take the treasure and let's keep it for ourselves. Our mindset mentality is to be a more abundant pirate in this time, in this life. It's to take everything you can, what you earn, what you learn, what you gain, and turn it around and give it back to the crew. And that's our main statement. So if we were to sum up what is Black Flag's main goal, we say it in 3 words here: enrich the crew. Because who is the crew? It's you, it's me, it's everyone who works here, it's everyone who consumes from us, it's everybody who's a partner with us, it's everybody who ever comes into contact with Black Flag becomes part of this crew. And we want to do everything in our company and companies to enrich the crew with great products, great experience, great lifestyle, great outcomes that can help them go seek great adventures that are waiting for them. Because like Jack Sparrow says in the Caribbean of the pirates, right? The Pirates of the Caribbean, one of his famous statements is, he says, mate, not all treasure is silver and gold. And that's a truth. Like in life, there's so many great treasures that we have that a lot of us are seeking, but sometimes don't know where to find them or what map we should be looking at and following in order to find the X that marks the spot of what we seek most in life. And so in a roundabout way, that's really what we're trying to accomplish here, right? Is we're trying to get a crew of pirates and some misfits that want to come be rebellious with us and go change the status quo that's out there that needs to be changed.
Oh my gosh, freaking love it. So exciting, so inspiring. Let's just finish. I have a couple questions.
Yes, you've got these cards. Let's hit it.
Do you like my cards?
I like your cards. I literally feel like I'm on a talk show. You know how like, what is it? The Late Show where he's got his cards, Jimmy Kimmel and
oh yeah.
What's his name? The guy I actually really like that came from SNL. What was his name?
Jimmy Fallon?
Jimmy Fallon. Oh, yeah, we got Jimmy Kimmel and we got Jimmy Fallon. Like, I love Jimmy Fallon's show. But yeah, you're like Ellen DeGeneres. You're like, okay, I got some cards for you. Let's go through this.
Oh, I love it.
Because we're ready to reign, baby.
Ready to reign.
Let's
okay,
do it.
Let's do it. Okay, they're kind of more rapid fire, and they're ChatGPT. So
love it. Hey.
Some more.
It's one of the best companions you can have in your life is ChatGPT.
Use your resources.
Yep.
Okay. If you had to survive 30 days at sea or 30 days in the mountains, what would you pick?
As a pirate And I think everyone would say, oh, if Jordan's obsessed with piracy, wouldn't he want to go survive 30 days at sea? I would actually say I'm also, you know, a hunter and an outdoorsman. And so I would actually choose surviving 30 days in the mountains.
Okay.
I have a lot to learn at sea. So if I was to go survive, I don't think I could survive 30 days at sea, but I think I could definitely survive a month in the wild of the outdoors for sure.
Okay. Good answer. Good answer.
I'm a land pirate.
It's fine. That's okay. Early bird or night owl?
Oh, my Lanta. I have earlier in my life, I was an early bird gets the worm, second mouse gets the cheese, as they say. Now I'm a night owl.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll my wife and I, like, once we put the kids down, we got 4 kids. It's like, we'll binge something. We're like, we finally have like personal time.
Yes.
And you're experiencing this too, because you've got the 2. So you're like,
Yeah.
we're going to take our time at night because we finally have it because they're asleep. So I'm a night owl.
I agree. I am too. I just get more done at night. So, one marketing trend you wish would disappear forever.
Oh my goodness. One marketing trend that I wish would disappear forever. Okay. I get
It could be controversial. It's okay.
It's kind of, listen, this is what's tough about it. It's funny. You know, the trend that's going on right now that a lot of influencers and brands are using is they kind of go out and they do these spoofs, or you remember
TikTok dances?
Yeah. Like I'm done with it. Like, it was great. Like the D'Amelio twins, remember them when they kind of came on the scene, and it was kind of like, okay, all these, but if we just kind of got rid of the TikTok dances, I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could die a happy man with no more TikTok dances.
I could agree. Yeah, it's not my thing. But
Nope.
Especially because I can't dance. I feel like if I could dance, maybe it would be better.
I have all the respect, but what I hate is when you get on the dead scroll and like you watch the dance, you're like, why did I just, that didn't inspire me, educate me, or do anything to enrich my life. I just watched somebody do this weird dance to this song that's trending. I'm like, I got to be done with these. I got to move on.
Why?
Yeah.
It's fine. Okay.
It's crazy.
Most used app on your phone?
Most used app on my phone, I would definitely say more recently, ChatGPT.
Okay. Yeah.
Very close second is Instagram. Like, I grew up in the Instagram era, so like everybody's like, are you on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or Twitter or X?
All the things now.
I'm like, I was raised in the
Instagram
era, so I tend to spend too much time there.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Now I'm really diving into the Instagram edits.
Oh, okay.
That app. Have you done that?
I
Mainly
haven't.
because I've tried to switch my mindset from being a consumer to being like, how can I use Instagram
to provide content and influence and help, right?
Yes.
Be a content creator.
Kind of switch that vibe, which is.
I mean, we've entered an era now of like where the last decade, as this all came to be, you know, there was a few meaningful and really popular content creators, and you kind of almost were like, well, they're this way because they're famous, and you're like, you don't know how they got famous, but now it's like, no, everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody on earth that has a cell phone that's maybe our generation and above, like, you can be a content creator. And that's kind of a way of life now.
Yeah. Well, I like to think of it as like, that's the only way that you can provide your personal brand. Like, if you want to like reflect yourself in business or a resume or anything, like replicate yourself as your own brand, because that's what you can control.
100%. It's a great way to say it.
On the way that you were saying too, like, there are so many people who are like, I'm going to start TikTok because I got to pay off our car, or I got to start TikTok because it paid our medical bills. Like, it's crazy what is capable nowadays just because you're getting paid for views or just creating. And I'm like,
you can change.
That's kind of easier than setting up a. Don't tell anybody I said that.
Well, think about this too. Like on that, like it goes right back to what you and I were talking about earlier, just with like that self-confidence and that ability. Like, if you don't think you're interesting, you're wrong. Like, every single person on earth has a story. Human beings, we are drawn to stories, and not everyone is a great storyteller. But if you are, from your personal brand perspective, and you can tell your own story or tell a great story, you're going to become very interesting to people. Like, have you read most recently the book by Mel Robinson, Let Them?
No, it's going around.
It's viral right now. She's killing it. But
she's killing it.
When you listen to the book, she talks about this, about how like we talked about, the roommate in our head will talk us out of things or tell us that we're not good enough or that we're not good. And you just said it really, I thought, well, where you said like, I want to control my own brand. I want to build my own name, image, and likeness and be able to like control my outcome. And these tools today more than ever allow any individual on earth to do that. And everybody has a story. Everybody has something meaningful. And if you can be authentic and share that and be genuine, you're really going to attract not just who you are, but people who like who you are. Because like we said earlier, you're not for everyone. You're not supposed to be, but find who you are and then just build a really core community around those core values and beliefs like you're doing right now. Like I'm struggling right now though, to be honest. Yeah, I grew up on Instagram where, through Mountain Ops years, I was doing all these posts. I was on there on lives all the time. I was socially making, I literally posted like almost every day the lifestyle that I was building and living at Mountain Ops. And as soon as I sold the company in 2020, I didn't make a post for 5 years. And I've just more recently made like 3 posts in like probably the last 3 months. And I'm not doing a good job of being a quote content creator because it's the whole landscape's changed. I mean, you're like, Jordan, have you got on the Instagram edit? I'm like, no.
I just got on that last week. I'm not even going to act like I'm a professional.
Okay, but
I'm literally
you've done something I haven't. I don't even know like what I should do and if I'm going to do it because
I have to shout out to Junior because Junior told me to use the app. He's like, your quality videos are so crappy. And he's like, use this. I'm like, oh, okay.
Ollin the best, dude. I love
They're
that
the
kid.
best.
They are the best.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. I feel like we could go down rabbit holes of personal branding and Instagram. Okay. What outdoor adventure have you not tried but you really want to do?
The outdoor adventure that I haven't done yet, interesting enough, 2 sides to that. One is I've never done the expedition where you get on a sailboat and you sail like through and down through the Caribbean. You do the whole route and come back. And I've watched these couples that do it or like these different experiences that they offer that you can go do this. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like a pirate's life. Like I want to do that.
Yeah.
And then on the hunting side, I still like I think the thing that most of us will either never have the opportunity in our life to do, and if we're fortunate enough to either draw it or pay for it, is like a sheep hunt. Like the closest thing that I've had in my hunting experiences was when I went to New Zealand and hunted tahr up in the Himalayan Alps of New Zealand, hunting Himalayan tahr up in the Alps of New Zealand. And I just think that experience of sheep hunters is so cool. And I watch the films and the experiences they have at those high altitudes and those bedrooms where they live up high in the mountaintops. I'm like, that's an adventure that I haven't done that I want to.
I want to do that too. It would take me a couple years because I got to train for that. I ain't ready for that.
No joke. I mean,
I'm not in
you
that
have got to
state,
train for that. That is steep and deep country that you're in. And I have a lot of respect for guys that have success and ladies that have success on those experiences and adventures because it's not a joke. Like you got to be ready for it.
You got to train for that one. Okay. If you could rebrand any product of the world, or like collab with a dream brand, what would it be?
If I could collab with a dream brand.
Okay, I guess those are 2 different questions.
Okay, so question 1 is if I could rebrand something. So
if
like,
you could rebrand something,
okay,
if you had the opportunity to rebrand a product.
What would I rebrand? If I could rebrand, that is a great question. There's a lot of products that are out there. What I would say is...
I mean, people do these on their like Instagram or TikToks. There's like creators, they'll go in and be like, this is my take on the rebrand.
Oh, and I love when these designers go in and say, here's my take on like a 7-Eleven logo, or here's my take on a new Apple logo. Like they'll come up with like these new... I would say if I could rebrand something, I think one of the brands that needs it the most, to be honest with you, is Reebok. I think Reebok is a brand that has been around a very long time. Its initial brand, if you remember, it had the 2 swoops and the swoosh had the 3 kind of swooshes.
Okay.
They went away from that. They did the triangle as they got more into CrossFit. They've now since come back to the old original mark, and it's a hideous brand. I'm like, Reebok needs a total refresh in order to compete against Adidas and Nike and be more relevant in the conversation. They went back to the old mark to pay homage to like the oldness of like what that started them, but their original brand sucked. It's never been a good brand. So I would totally rebrand Reebok.
All right.
Yeah.
What about a dream brand?
Dream brand to work with. And it's only because I wish he was still alive today. I adore him so much. In fact, in my office right behind us, I have one of the very few signatures that he's ever signed. I chased that for like 10 years and I was fortunate enough to get it, and it wasn't cheap, but it's Steve Jobs' signature. So I'll show you after this podcast. But
Okay.
I have one of the original iPhones that's graded and sealed in a case, the very first edition iPhones, and his signature on a piece of paper that he signed in the hospital the year that he died. So he didn't sign many things. Many people don't have his signature. He just often didn't do that. But I love Apple. A lot of like my love.
Is that because of a branding perspective or a tech perspective?
Because of the movement, right? Just like we talked about, the movement that we're making here at Black Flag and what we're building is a movement. Apple, Steve Jobs, Wozniak, they built incredible products just like we do, but they sold an emotion. They sold a movement that changed the entire course of human history through technology and product that was paired with brilliant design, like simple and easy to use, and just like user friendly, and just like all about thinking and being different and the Apple way. And so like, if I could ever collaborate in my future in some way and somehow with a brand that I adore more than anyone, it'd be Apple. I love Apple.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, only a couple more and then we'll finish out.
Okay.
Favorite campaign or project that you've ever worked on?
Favorite campaign project. One of my favorite projects that Casey and I worked on that was really, especially evolutionary. I mean, I'm excited about what we're doing now. We're just getting started. So our campaign isn't fully developed. We're not fully out, but we're building it and we're getting it there. But when Casey and I were at Mountain Ops, we came up with the Conquer More campaign. And so our tagline was Conquer More. And, some of the most famous brands and businesses that are out there, they're very good at having a simple statement that defines for the user what they want them to experience with the brand. And so like for Nike, it's just do it, right? For Apple, it was think different. There's lots of these different, slogans. And so we created this campaign called Conquer More. And we went into Conquer More, and then we defined what the next word was, like conquer more duck hunting, conquer more bucks and bulls, like whatever quote conquer more became to you was the next word, you fill in the blank.
I think that's really interesting because that campaign still lives on. Like, even though you guys are not there, that is still one of the strongest campaigns that has continued to build a community. I think the biggest one I see is like Conquer More for Hunger and like the give back that like.
Trevor came up with that. Like when Casey and I kind of designed our actual first slogan at Mountain Ops was Conquer Your Unknown. That was the first statement that we came up with, and we were inspiring people, whatever your unknown was, make it known to you, right? And then 3 years into the business, Casey and I sat down, revisited like our marketing strategy, what we want to do, and Casey was like, I think I've simplified the statement into Conquer More. And I was like, dude, that's brilliant. Like that embodies everything that we're doing here. And what was cool is like, Trevor, he was very much like passionate about the give back side of the business. So me and Casey were focused on like for profit, right? Making the business money. And Trevor was focused on taking the profit and giving it away. And so there was kind of a mutual pairing of like, we're focused on building the business through for-profit efforts, through marketing and product and revenue, and through campaigning like Conquer More. And he's like, I want to do Conquer Hunger, where we help with people that don't and can't afford supplements. So like Trevor gets 100% and all the credit for that program that we called it Operation Conquer Hunger. And he designed and developed that. And it's been a very successful program that's donated millions of meals to families and individuals in need, pantry packs and all these things. And I still remember the day when we were in Trevor's office and he pitched it to Casey and I was like, I want to do this. And we're like, do it, like own it. And like literally, Trevor's owned that from day one still till to this day. And it's had a significant impact on both our consumers and for those who don't and can't afford to consume. So it's a really great get back.
That's awesome. Okay. One thing people totally misunderstand about branding.
Oh, man. I think the thing that people miss so much about branding is I see too often that people don't care enough. And so it's easy right now. You can ChatGPT a logo, right? You're like, hey, I want a logo. Here's my name and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, it spits out some icon something. But I think the greatest brands that have had the biggest impact and become the most iconic aren't just because of how well they're designed. It's what's behind the brand. It's what the meaning is. It's what the mission. It's not the mark. The mark only represents the mission. And when a brand and a logo and an icon actually has a mission behind it, it's unstoppable. It's like you work for Black Rifle Coffee. Like I remember when Evan started Black Rifle Coffee it was Matt and with
GT.
Yeah. And I was on their Dark Black Heart podcast early on back then, because we literally started Black Rifle Coffee and Mountain Up started literally almost the same month. It was kind of crazy. Back in 2014, we both launched, and we went niche hunting and they went mainstream. And so, but even that BRCC, right? It has a lot of meaning because of what Evan built behind the movement of Black Rifle Coffee, or the Mountain Ops M&O shield that we put behind Mountain Ops, or there's so many icons that are meaningful to people, but they only have meaning because they're just shapes and colors when they have a mission. And so I think that's what's really important that a lot of people miss when they're making a logo. They think, oh, if I make a cool logo, people will buy it. And it's like, maybe. But if people are actually emotionally tied to what your brand and mark stands for and what it represents, they'll never leave you. In fact, they'll tattoo their body with it.
Yeah.
Which people did at Mountain Ops. And we're waiting for the first tattoo of this one, because when you've done that, I feel like you've arrived. You've got somebody that has colored their skin permanently forever with your mark to say, I am part of this, which I think is really cool.
Yeah. That is.
So that's where
That's
I think
really
I think
cool.
that's where people miss it. They just focus on the mark, the logo, and they don't design the mission or meaning behind it. And if that mission informs the design, like ours does, then it means more to you now than it's just cool looking. It actually has intention, which is really cool.
That's cool.
It's a long answer again. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's great.
I'm always the long-winded one, man. This podcast, you're like, we're gonna have a 30-minute
Senior
podcast
did
with
warn
Jordan.
me. He did warn me. He was
I
like,
told you, I'm like,
you might want to mark a couple out.
Yes, I'm like, you could cut this into like 3 different podcasts.
That's
You could have
okay.
3 episodes.
We appreciate it. It's a lot of useful information. So let's finish here.
'Kay.
What is a final piece of advice that you would like to leave for the podcast? You've given a lot,
I've given a lot.
but let's leave a final.
I'm a very positive person. I love positive energy, and I love being around good energy and good vibes. And the thing that my dad taught me at life that really changed my outlook on life and has always kind of helped me inform a lot of my decisions is he always said to me, son, your attitude will ultimately determine your altitude. And so even when we joke and kind of talked about jumping off a cliff and building a plane in the air, like that's an attitude that you have to have and a decision that you have to make, that ultimately, if you have a good attitude, you'll live life at a higher altitude. And so my invitation to everybody out there is live with a bit of optimism in everything you do. Find a silver lining in all the darkness and in all the things in your life that seem to be going wrong. Find the one thing that's going right and just hold on to it. And then have a good attitude every day that you wake up on what you're doing and even some of the things you might not be doing. Because if you'll do that, I promise you that you're going to live a life at a higher altitude with more happiness, more joy, and it's going to be very enriching and rewarding to you. So have a good attitude.
I love it.
Yeah.
I appreciate it so much.
Appreciate
Thank you for
you.
taking the time and letting me come up here.
Thanks
This place
for-
is amazing.
Yes.
And it's so fun to see something get built, and it's inspiring for
We're
a little guy like me.
excited to build the flagship of Black Flag. I mean, this was mine and Casey's whole vision, hope, and dream is to build a place where we can both enrich the crew and we can gather the crew. So like you experienced when you walked in, we've got this beautiful gym, communities in there working out and getting their revenge bodies, and it's just we're excited for where the future lies and what our vision for it is. And so I hope everyone that's listening, she is not paid. What she said is genuine. I really appreciate that remark that you said about revenge. We're very proud of what we've built, and we're excited for people to try it. And honestly, for anybody that wants to try it and consume it, if you guys want to come on blackflag.com, we're more than happy to give you a deep discount because of you. So what we'll say is use the code RAIN at checkout, and we'll actually offer a 30% discount for that.
Oh my gosh,
So,
you are so
I mean, listen,
sweet. Okay,
try
that's like my
it.
first not that this is a brand deal. It's not. We're not making business at the table.
Yeah,
But
no,
that is. Thank you.
we want, listen, in order to make it rain, you need revenge. So let's get revenge.
It's been fueling me.
And make it rain. Yes. So, and guys, you're going to have to spell that at checkout, RAEYNE.
It is different. It's my first name and my middle name. So
Yes.
that's why.
So awesome.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you. Thanks for having me on.
Okay. See you soon.
ya.